We're going to open the meeting at 6 o'clock. This is the special meeting of the Select Board to talk about the bond vote that is happening tomorrow. This is the discussion we want to have, we're required to have, prior to any vote that involves money. And I would like to keep the discussion tonight focused on that issue and not other things. But we're happy to answer questions that we can answer. We are talking about the bond vote tomorrow. Maybe, Dan, you could read what that is saying.
Tomorrow's ballot, it'll say, Article 1, shall the Select Board be authorized but not obligated to issue general obligation bonds or notes in an amount not to exceed $600,000, subject to reduction by the application of federal and state grants and aid and reserve funds, be issued for the purpose of acquiring real property located at 68 East Hill Road and 266 Main Street, the estimated cost of such acquisition being $600,000.
Thank you. That's, let's see, so we're just discussing this. If anybody has questions about this particular bond vote, now is the time. I'd like to get a sense of who is going to have something to talk about. We would like to get people in a rotation so we don't have, we have everybody have a chance to speak, including our Zoom members. So we have some speakers, 1, 2, so far. Okay.
Get those hands up so that we can see them. Thank you.
Question askers, yes. Okay. All right, well, let's get started. Would you like to start? Because you, let's use the mic, please, so everybody can hear.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes, okay.
Yeah, get close to it.
Okay, get close, it's good?
Yeah.
Okay, so Victoria McDonald, and I just need a clarification of what's in here, just to have a good understanding. On Article 1, where it says, subject to reduction by the application of federal and state grants and aid and reserve funds. Are you saying that you have other funds that you might apply to the property that is not the 600, and we might not have to go after the whole 600K, we might vote for it for 600K, but you have other things you're applying to it? Is that what this means, or does it mean something different? Like if the CDBG-DR grant comes in less, does that happen, that you still can move forward with purchasing the property? I wasn't clear on what this means, so I was just asking for clarification.
Okay, well, the board has expressed their sense that if we don't get a significant grant, we're not borrowing money. The project needs to go through in order for us to consider this. The reason we're doing it is to save money, because we can get the interest, 2% interest rate, and we can get all the income from the sale of the property back to the town. Dan?
Yeah, and the specific language and the way it's worded that way is from Vermont League of Cities and Towns, is where we got it. And what that means is the execution date for the purchase and sale agreements is the end of March. And so theoretically, between now and the end of March, something could change. We could find an extra amount of money, and we could put that amount of money towards the sale rather than borrowing the full 600. All it says is we're not locking ourselves into 600 as a figure if we can reduce it using other ways.
Okay, do you have any ideas or already know of some monies that you might know? This is just in case you find.
This is just in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on what Dan said, the language actually came from bond counsel, which is why it says bond or note. So somebody asked me earlier, well, which is it? And I said, it's wide open because that's the way the bond counsel said to write it. So.
Well, thank you, I appreciate the clarification.
Questions? I see one here. Rita?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lita Schubert. I just have one question. I missed some of that conversation. If we do not pass the $600,000 tomorrow, can you tell me what will happen?
We don't know, I guess is the answer. We don't know, we still won't know what we're getting for the grant. We don't know if there's other grants. We do know that it will not look favorable on the town to not support a project like this. But how that affects us, we just don't know what will happen. We'll have to address it as it comes.
So, excuse me, let me just clarify that. So the project may continue. Oh,
Sorry, Lita. Get your steps in.
so just to clarify, you're saying that we may look for other sources of funding, or it does not necessarily stop the project, is what I'm interpreting your words. Can I see it?
Yes.
Correct, I mean, it wouldn't
Yeah.
in itself stop the project. We would still be potentially available to the $9.7 million grant could still come, other funding sources could still come. So just like the in-person town meeting vote was an advisory vote to allow us to see if we should move forward or not, this is also an advisory vote. This is about specific, the only thing on the ballot tomorrow is specifically this $600,000 and whether the town should get a loan for a 2% interest rate to move to buy the property. That's the only issue on the ballot tomorrow.
It gives the board authority.
Authority to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and doesn't guarantee that the board will decide to do that. We still have some questions ourselves about the process.
The readers of the CDBG-DR grants from all over the two counties.
You should use the mic too, so people on the.
This is a microphone right here, just so you know.
Yeah.
Speak up a little bit.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
With pleasure. So the readers of the grants, they are going to determine, regardless of whether or not we pass the $600,000 authorization tomorrow, they still are going to decide how much, if any, Plainfield is offered. And then it remains up to the select board to find a path forward from there.
Janice?
Thank you. So just as
You can just say your
the,
name.
oh, Janice Grill. Thanks. Just as the town meeting vote was understood to be more than just a vote about the reserve fund, I'm assuming that you will in some way understand this vote to be a thumbs up or a thumbs down about the project itself. And I guess my question is that it's a kind of a subjective question, but will it mean anything to you in your decision to go forward with this project if there is a very strong showing that people are not supporting this? Thanks.
Well, I think it will mean something. We also have a lot of folks who would like to see it proceed. So we will probably keep addressing options that are brought to us, but it definitely will be heard. Other thoughts, comments, questions? Yes. And identify yourself, please.
I'm Jen Guarino, and I'm catching up, and I apologize if this is redundant for some people, but I'm curious to know what the $600,000 would cover in terms of the purchase of the land and/or some of the building of the housing that is intended. So I guess I'm wondering, what is the cost of the land itself, and how is that intended to be funded? And then how will the housing be, the development cost be covered? Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it does. So there's actually 3 parcels being purchased or being offered. We have a purchase and sale with the owners. This money would be used to purchase that property, and that's all. The development of the land is up to the landowners who would buy lots. The idea is that the lots would be sold by the town and the proceeds would come back to the town to pay off the loan. And some more, I think, but certainly pay off the loan. That's the idea. Peter?
Yeah, there's something like 30,000 in there, which covers the normal closing costs as well.
Yeah.
And then I think
If you add up what's on the purchase and sales agreements, and then the rest is for closing costs.
And then meanwhile, the 600,000 is nested in the overall CDBG-DR grant, the $9.7 million, minus some hundreds of thousands for other projects that we did include. That's going to lay in the basic infrastructure, the village infrastructure, not the housing infrastructure, the roads, the utilities. That is where, so that would get the project to a place where people could buy a lot and put up a house. And it was favorable strategically to not include the $600,000 in the grant application for reasons that were out of our control, is why this is a separate question. But it is nested in the acknowledgement that we did just apply for, $9+ million in funding for this project.
Yeah, and as Francis Rose says, it's not just this project. We have significant amount of work to do on the Winooski River banks that are starting to jeopardize homes, among other things. There's more than just that. But, any other thoughts? Oh, sorry.
Hi, Lauren Geiger, Hudson Avenue, Plainfield. I just wanted to clarify for Jen or whoever just asked that question that the reason that we were recommending that we borrow the money to buy the land is that if we included the purchase of the land in the CDBG-DR grant, the town would not be able to keep the proceeds. They would only be able to keep 50% of the proceeds from the sale of the fair market value lots. And if we borrow the money from the VCF, the town is able to keep all of the proceeds from the sale of the land.
Very good point, thank you. Oh, I saw Karen, I think. Oh,
Thank you. Charlie Cocco.
Charlie.
I want to address the $600,000 directly. This is a deal made without input from the town, rightfully so, because it was confidential and made through negotiations between the select board and the sellers of the land. I would like to look closely at that. It is not a total one property, one price. It's 3 separate properties.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 separate properties include parcel C, which is the easternmost on East Hill Road, that it was being sold for, or bought for, depending on what side of the transaction you were on, $285,000. That is almost half of the total $600,000 for the entire 3 parcels. It is only 1/3 of the area, and most of that is wetlands. There's something flawed here. More than half the price for 1/3 of the property that's mostly wetlands. Beyond that, the select board has had a secondary memorandum of understanding that they will, after they acquire that piece of land, parcel C, will sell 2/3 of it to an adjacent landowner for $35,000. They are putting up 285, and they're getting back 35. You are reserving 1.5 acres of parcel C that has 2.5 lots in the latest plan for the development. Effectively, you are paying $250,000 for 2.5 lots, 1.5 acres. I don't think my math isn't quite right there, but that's over $300,000 an acre. Oh, do I still have the floor?
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, in bookending the new is a third parcel of about a half an acre that's on Main Street that is going to be bought for $80,000 in the purchase and sales agreement. By the way, that is over the appraised price. I'm not going to discuss how far over or how inequitable it might be. That was for the negotiations that took place outside of what we see. However, that 80,000 has another memorandum of understanding that requires the town to demolish the pad and the mobile home that's on it now, to provide a new mobile home, to provide one of the lots in the new development for that mobile home. It doesn't say the price, but I assume it's free. And also provide 3 years of housing and utilities for the renter of that mobile home. So even though you're buying it for $80,000, you are incurring between $100,000 and $200,000 of incurred expenses for that lot, which is another $250,000 for a half an acre. I wouldn't want to calculate the price of that. There is something flawed in this deal. Not the whole deal, but the 2 pieces of the 3 pieces of the deal. I'm not saying it's flawed legally. I'm saying it's flawed common sense. The negotiations came up with a deal that many would consider inadequate. Maybe it's necessary, but it isn't fair. And I would like to hear your comments on why you think the deal that you made is fair and adequate.
Peter? Yeah.
Charlie, there's 2 parts to your question. The relocation of the trailer on that particular parcel, and then the Lot C arrangement. Lot C, which we are purchasing from Syringa Investments. You are correct, there's a memorandum of understanding, and I wrote about this today online, if you follow that stuff, but is being sold to the Hosfords, who maintain currently a right of first refusal on the property, and also agricultural liens that prohibit certain activities. So the exchange of money is not just for property, it is for the release of liens and right of first refusal. The 3 remaining properties are the developable three lots. And those are of most value to the rest of the project, as is the revocation of the liens and the understanding that the access road, the wetlands protection, buffer zones, etc., will continue. So it is a more complicated than it looks. And that is, all of this was done by our attorney in negotiations, which are confidential, but that's on that particular parcel. In terms of the trailer, the other lot, it is a requirement, a federal requirement, and I'm not going to remember the name of the Relocation Act, that requires us to make accommodations if someone needs to be located for the use of federal funds to go ahead. All of those costs, whatever they may be, are going to be covered by the grant.
Lauren?
Do you want me to stand up, Mike?
Yes,
Yes,
please,
Mike.
yeah, just that, we need you to be able to be heard by others.
Just to clarify, the provision to rehouse the person in the trailer is called the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970.
That's why I didn't remember it.
Yeah, it's a federal law that provides a uniform, fair, and equitable approach for acquiring real property and assisting people displaced by federally funded projects.
Yeah. Go ahead, Charlie, then we'll
Just quick
get whoever else.
follow-up.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to debate this. What I'm pointing out is that a precedent is being set. A precedent is being set to give away parts of the original lots, which, by the way, giving away 5 acres of wetlands will change the potential for a PUD in front of the Plainfield Development Review Board as open land. It's selling part of, or giving away part of the land before then. Also, it's setting a precedent of giving away a lot and putting a mobile home on it. I hope this is not the precedent for the entire development.
Oh, sorry.
And I'll just note, it's moving of the mobile home that this tenant already lives in. So this tenant, long-term tenant in this property, is living in it. It will get moved to the new location. And all we're doing is trying to, the landlord of that property, the owner of that property, did not want to sell if their tenant was going to be unhoused in any way. And so this was a way for us to continue to let them be housed. And again, we're just following federal law on the ways that we can do that. And again, all those costs are going to be, and I don't think it's precedent setting necessarily. It could be a model if it works really well that we decide to do, but like anything else, no actions that we take as select board members ties the hands of future select board members or future select boards to follow any kind of specific thing. So I think trying to act like this is the Supreme Court and everything we do is a precedent seems a little irrational to me.
And then I would add the remaining detail not yet spoken about the Main Street parcel is its value to the project as a sewage transfer, a gravity-fed sewage flow point off of the property, which if we didn't do that, we'd be setting ourselves up for $100,000 per year in maintenance of a pumping sewage uphill. And I want to say something that, Charlie, you are taking details that are true about this project, but you're taking them out of context. Yes, you can like zoom in and it makes no sense, but the people who have created this and brought it here have done so for thoughtful reasons. For example, saving $100,000 a year in maintenance. Meanwhile, the parcels left over on parcel C, the sale of those parcels make back the cost to the town. And not yet spoken, the sale of the lots using the $600,000 that we might borrow allows us to recoup that $600,000 plus hundreds of thousands more.
I'd like to.
You might be right. I'm not taking it out of context without having advanced knowledge of what's going on, and I don't. This is the first opportunity that the public has had a chance to listen to this.
Yep.
And I object to be saying I'm taking it out of context when I am asking for an explanation that the populace of this town deserves.
Eli, you had your hand up?
Yeah, sure.
And then I see you back there, Sandy. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Eli Barlow. I want to directly talk to you, Charlie. Charlie, great. Okay. You're asking these questions. I agree. I wanted to know about this sales agreement too, and I don't know all the details, and it was never my responsibility to do that negotiation, so I don't know all the details, right? You ended by saying you don't want the gift and housing of a renter to be a precedent, and you don't want a mobile home to go on that land. You didn't say that. Okay, what did you say?
I said that this could be interpreted as a precedent. That doesn't mean I agree with it or disagree with it. I'm saying what the appearance of it is.
Got it. It felt to me like you were saying that you didn't want that precedent to be set, and I just want for the public, right? You are saying that you are okay with that, you're not saying whether you're okay or not with that precedent being set. It's just worth noting that I am okay with that precedent being set.
Eli, can we focus? I want to not
I'm
get.
sorry, yeah, thank you. All right,
Did you get your point through that you
I
had?
did,
Okay,
yes.
great. Sandy?
Hi, I'm here only to make a very small point that's an aside.
Sandy, can you say your name for the record?
Louder. I'm Sandy Fitztum, I live in Montpelier. It was a really earnest discussion tonight, and I don't live in Plainfield, but I'm very impressed with it. It does not happen in other towns. It's actually a very fortunate thing to have an active democracy. And I also appreciate the level of discretion being used tonight. I want to point out, I got an email from the owner of the trailer, and his name is beginning to be dragged into Front Porch Forum postings and on Facebook, and it's distressing. It's distressing for people's names and their financial situations to begin to be broadcasted. Please, when you are posting on these media, please think about how it would feel if your financial information were being shared publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Is there anybody up on the screen? No?
Karen's got a hand up.
Oh, yeah, Karen, sorry.
Karen Hatcher, Town Grants Administrator. I did want to just respond to an earlier question about what happens next if the vote passes or fails. And part of what happens next is on November 20th, there is a board meeting where the funding committee hears from each of the towns who have applied for funding to hear what we have, what progress we have made on our application since we submitted it. And I am that representative from our town and for this application. And I really hope that we can figure our way through to say yes on this, because it puts us in a far stronger position for me to walk in and let that group know that our town has skin in the game, has figured out that we need to make an investment to be able to accept up to $10 million for our revitalization. That's part of what happens next. If I walk in and don't have good news around that, but maybe we have other options could be good news. But we have been told that a no vote definitely drops us in terms of how we're seen, in terms of the commitment the town is willing to make to match what this grant could be for us. So I just want to put that out there, because this is the reality of this. I will go in and report whatever it is, whatever the town decides. But I will tell you that we will be in a far worse position if we vote this no. Dan?
And am I correct? $9.7 million is a lot of money.
It is.
It's all of our taxpayer money. That $9.7 million is being spent whether we get it or another town gets it.
That's correct.
It's not gonna save any taxpayer of this town money if we don't get the $9.7 million.
That's correct. Barry has 7 projects being put before that committee. So this is our one. Thank you.
I got Jake and then Vicky.
Jake McBride. I just want to add to Karen's point that if I'm understanding correctly, this $9.7 million isn't just for this project. Correct. This is to reinforce banks in other areas of town where other homes are already at risk. Yes. To make sure that they don't fall into the river in the future. Right. So if we vote no on this, we are not only saying that we don't want the funding for this new project, but that also we are less likely to get funding to retain current housing stock and current long-time residents. Is that correct?
Yeah, it might be a reach, honestly, but,
okay.
But yes.
So, but we're less,
yeah.
Karen said we're less likely to get the
Yes.
$9.7 million, which would not just pay for this project, but for several other projects.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
thank
true,
you.
that's correct. Yes, you had your hand up.
My question was similar.
Name it.
Yeah, name again, please.
Yeah, my name is Jen Guarino. Excuse me. So I was curious what the 9.7 was earmarked for. And so thank you, Jake, wherever you are, for asking that question. Then I had a follow-up question, and now I've forgotten what it is.
And just for anybody who's interested in the 9.7 million, we had a hearing back in September that went for like 4 hours, and the recording is online, and it gets into every single possible detail about that grant and what it would be used for,
Okay,
And the
I
grant
do,
application
and the application.
is online. You can go budget, look at every budget item.
But just in a quick summary, it pays for the infrastructure, as Francis Rose said. It pays for professional project management for 5 years. It does some investments with Habitat for Humanity and Downstreet for some special low-income housing. It does the relocation. It's the match on the grant that protects the Winooski Riverbank behind Martin Meadow and the health center. Those are some of the major highlights, but there's a lot more in there. But
So-
it's there to look at.
I did remember my follow-up. So, initially when the floods happened, we were expecting some FEMA funds to come in. Is FEMA completely out of the picture now? No?
I wouldn't say it's out of the picture, but there's certainly a lot of disruption. It's not being handled normally. And it may be at risk, we don't know. This is an opportunity.
Would you like me to answer that question?
Oh, yeah. Let's get the expert.
So the FEMA Public Assistance Program, which will pay for repairs to roads, bridges, culverts, water, wastewater, outside of Brook Road, we have $1.5 million in projects in the FEMA portal. We do expect, I've got my treasurer here with the spreadsheet with all of it, but so we have money we expect from FEMA. Wow, Josh, this is huge. So is that just FEMA?
That is the total cost,
Yeah,
and then the federal share is this amount.
yeah, 1.744 million.
Federal share.
Of the federal share that we expect. That's what's happening with FEMA. There's also a series of, how many projects for federal highway? Now? 12 projects for federal highway? That amount to somewhere between 6 and 8 million is what we think, right? When all is said and done?
Yes.
Somewhere in there. All in play, still in play. Okay.
And there's also individual assistance.
Individual assistance also happened with FEMA, that already happened. But
The buyouts.
the buyouts are still, thank you, buyout coordinator, how many?
We have 38 housing units in 27 buildings.
27 buildings,
Yeah.
38 housing units in the FEMA buyout program.
How many want buyouts?
They've all
All of
applied.
them. All of them have applied.
They applied.
Okay.
There were more people who could have applied who did not apply. Those are who applied.
Those are all in the program, in process. Okay, that's the whole.
Thank you for that clarification. I have an online question from Alana.
Hello, my name's Elena, Norway. And I'm wondering about, so I heard that there are other projects. I'm pretty familiar with the grant application. And it seems like it's been talked about here tonight that there is houses that are threatened to be put in the river. And it's my understanding that the grant is going to pay for the match for $300,000 for the other grant that was already received or gotten, and that it will. The only one threatened is the driveway to the church down there, and there are no other homes that are threatened. So I just wanted to clarify that because I think it was far-reaching. The person that spoke before, or a couple people that have mentioned that there's other things that this grant is going to be used for, and that it's going to save houses that are about to fall in the river, and that That's not right. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
Karen's gonna answer that question for you.
So the emergency watershed protection grant started out at 300,000, Alana, and it went up to 1.1 million, 1.2. And so the match became 25%, so that was the 250,000, 300,000, because about 300,000. You're right that it is not homes exactly along that river. The erosion along the river is from the Friends Meeting House property along to the Plainfield Health Center. And the erosion is happening and it's eating underneath the, eating the bed, so from the bottom. Charlie keeps shaking his head. But that's the laywoman's version of it. There are reports and there are things that we are waiting for the federal government to be back in. They've furloughed all of the people who would help us with this. So that matching fund is for that section of the Winooski.
Okay, so there's not actually houses that are being threatened, correct? There is a driveway.
There are properties that are threatened.
It's properties that are
Seriously.
threatened. I think we have to
Okay,
leave
well,
it.
I know, but I just wanted to clarify because it really, it made it sound more like people might go, oh, there's a lot of houses that are threatened and this is gonna help them, and it's not
Okay.
true. So thank you
It's
very
not-
much.
Right, that was clarification, yep. Yes. And then Denise?
Vicki McDonald, I think that, I don't know who it was, but the person before Karen, I think had another part of a question that wasn't quite maybe answered. I know Karen can answer it, but it had to do with the FEMA buyout currently, and was that money at risk for coming to Plainfield? I was just wondering if she could just respond to that.
Or maybe Aaron?
Or Aaron.
Yeah, we can get an answer, I think.
Aaron Montgomery speaking in as the buyout coordinator for the town. Michael Billingsley had a meeting, in-person meeting here in Plainfield, we met with them 2 or 3 weeks ago with state staff, and the gist of that conversation was things are moving forward. They're moving forward very, very slowly. But they have no reason to think that the buyouts that were submitted in 2023, which all are actually much further along, have been approved, and there are 3 of those on School Street, and all of those in 2024 are still in process. And we continue to receive regular requests for additional information, which they find encouraging. However, that doesn't tell us how much longer to wait. But there's no reason to think that it will not come. There are many buyouts all across the state. They're managing all of those. Some of them have had to be resubmitted 4 times because of administrative change requests. But they have been very diligent and on top of it.
Thank you. Denise?
Janice Grill, I just want clarity, if it's possible, about this watershed grant after the 4-hour hearing and after the answer here. I still don't understand. Does not the grantor have the ability to give us money for just that, if they choose? I mean, or is it all or nothing kind of a situation?
It's true, they have the option of granting some part of, but not all of, the grant application.
Okay, so it's not at risk if this loan is voted down?
Well, it's all part of the same grant. So they would make that decision based on the facts here, and we don't know how they will make that decision, if they will decide to fully fund 10 projects and not fund any at all. Like, that's all up to that board who's gonna make that decision.
No, sure, but there's nothing about how this vote goes that would have any bearing on whether they granted the money for the watershed project, right?
We don't actually know that.
Well, okay, I don't.
We have heard from our grant administrator that a voting no will weaken the overall grant application, and so that may make it less likely. We don't know that for sure, but it
That
will
would
not
seem really
help us.
unreasonable.
Well, that's
Yeah.
government.
I know.
Yes, Lita, yeah.
I'm still Lita Schubert. I am not totally demented. I am old, but not totally demented. And I am confused. So at town meeting, we had a sort of bizarre vote, and everybody took that to mean that we would move forward with the project, although really we were creating a fund, a place for a fund. There hasn't been any opportunity to really discuss that fund or the project since then, as I understand. So going back to my first question, if the town votes no tomorrow, if that should happen, which means we don't want to vote 600,000, I would think that would be a vote from the town indicating that they do not want to proceed with the project. So I'm still confused about why we would continue to make further steps forward. And I'll just stand here in case something occurs to me, which is unlikely.
Go ahead, Peter.
No, you start first.
I'm not quite sure. I know what you're saying. First of all, the 600,000 is only if we can secure the funding for the project. There's no point in the town buying the land if there's no project. So it's not a guarantee the town is going to do it. It has a lot to do.
Wait a minute, that was backwards. So, go ahead, Carl, sorry.
So the point is that we want authorization if conditions are such that it makes sense to borrow up to 600,000 for the purchase of the land. But that won't happen with this board. We've talked about this numerous times, that if we don't get funding to do the rest of the project from grants, there's no point in buying the land.
May I?
Please, yeah.
I hear your, I hear you. I think I want to go back to the town meeting vote, which is where you began. It was, yes, we read that as like a yes to continue to explore the project. Just to name that this board has been in unanimous support for the exploration of this project. If the town votes down $600,000, that is a devastating blow to the exploration. But does that absolutely kill the exploration? No. There are backup plans. There are plan Bs to explore.
And I'm sort of confused about why we're having the vote, because, I know we have to legally, but if we are saying we don't want to appropriate this money, it's an indication to me that we don't want this project to continue. But you're saying that, I'll just get to you in a second.
I'm doing it for Carl's benefit, not for your benefit.
He has trouble getting my attention sometimes.
Go ahead.
Finish, Lita.
I forgot my train of thought.
No, I'm just gonna say,
Take a lot.
it would be a big data point, right? So we, every select board member is a different person. On the town meeting day, we were asked explicitly, as a select board member, how do you see this reserve fund vote? And I said, and I went back to the recording to make sure that I actually said this, because it's how I remember it. I would see this vote as a, let's move forward, permission for the select board to put time and effort into it. I will see this data point as a data point that we slow down what we're looking at. But if we get $9.7 million to work on this project and improve the town and add infrastructure and do these things, that's also a data point. And we aren't asking the town, should we do this project or not? And I will be reminded by folks who have come to us a lot since the town meeting vote, the words on the paper are what people are voting on. And so we shouldn't, at least I've heard multiple people say, we shouldn't have overreacted on town meeting day and done too much on the project. And so depending on tomorrow's vote, we shouldn't overreact and then all of a sudden just say the project is dead. That's where I come from.
No further questions.
Jake?
Lita, I was also, Jake McBride is my name, not Lita Shipper, that's Lita Shipper. Lita, I wanted to also just address what you said about how if this goes through as a no, that's the town saying no, we don't want to do this project. And I think I interpret it more as, no, we don't want to borrow this money. I know there's a lot of people who are worried about the financial risk of borrowing this money. And for example, would be okay with another grant, who are absolute amazing grant coordinator over here could find us in the future that could fund buying the property. So I guess I don't take this as a no, we're done. For example, I am a little nervous about borrowing money, even after all the details. And still, I would like to see the project continue forward, to continue to explore it. I'm not like, let's just do it right now. I want to continue at a reasonable pace. But I do see this vote as separate from yes or no, we want the project to continue. It's just, do we want to take this particular financial move that sounds like it would be beneficial to the town in the long run, but would be a risk in the short run? And I don't know if that's helpful clarification. But.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Jen Guarino. I'm curious about the Vermont Community Foundation loan. So my understanding is it's a 2% loan. What is the payback period on that? Do we know at this point in time?
We know, I don't know personally. I don't remember it either. Can we?
Josh knows.
Oh, Josh, hi there.
Will you go on the mic, just so that?
Josh Pitts, Town Treasurer. It's a 5-year loan with a 2% simple interest annual rate.
Thank you.
Okay. So if it's a no vote tomorrow, the 600,000 bond, would Vermont Community Foundation still be willing to loan us this money? Or are they also watching this vote to see what the tenor of the town is?
This loan requires a vote.
Requires a vote, and if the vote is no,
We can't borrow.
We won't borrow, we
then
can't
it's a
borrow.
moot point, the loan is not available.
Correct.
Like, yeah, not from VCF's perspective, but from the town's perspective.
Yeah.
Could someone else offer us a loan? Sure, we'd have to vote on that too, depending on the terms, et cetera.
Yeah,
There are Vermont laws that require us to take certain financial moves to the voters, depending on the terms, the amount, how long, et cetera.
Right, but this particular loan is tied to a yes vote for tomorrow.
Correct. Yes, yeah. Michael.
Hey everyone, it's Michael Birnbaum. Absolutely, this vote is specifically about the loan. It's a legal requirement. If it's voted yes, you have the authority to borrow when and if you need to. And if it's voted no, you don't. But I have to say to everyone in this room that it's naive to think that this isn't a referendum. Everybody in the whole town knows that this is a referendum on whether they feel good about the project. And yes, we're only voting on what we talked about, what's in the bond, but it's clearly a referendum on whether they think the project is a good idea or not.
I disagree. I don't think it says you said everybody.
Yeah.
I want to be included.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jared Birchmore. Yeah, I just want to respond to that and say that I think that is a personal projection of what you perceive this vote to be, Michael. And I wouldn't ask the select board to assume that everyone that is voting yes or no on this is a referendum on the interest in the project going forward. It is specifically a vote on this form of funding and whether voters agree or don't agree with pursuing this method of funding. I think assuming grander conclusions is blowing the vote out of proportion of what it actually is. Thanks.
Thanks. Steve, you had your hand up.
Stephen Parnham. There seems to be an idea that we're voting on one thing or another. My impression is that if we were simply voting to go forward with this project and money wasn't a consideration, the tenor of the conversation and the outcome of the vote would be an awful lot different than if the only question is, are we going to borrow $500,000? Unfortunately, in order to do one, we have to do the other. So the questions are kind of tied together. I thought I understood what was the deal here, and now I'm not so sure that I do. I was of the impression we're getting all kinds of grants, you enumerated them, and that the town is simply borrowing money to buy land, that's it. But when you read the article, it sounded to me as if there was a possibility there would be some grant money to help in the purchase of the land as well. Am I mistaken in that?
It is not that there is grant money. It is language that allows, if we find grant money or other ways to bring down these costs, we would take out a smaller loan. It is allowing for that as a possibility rather than, so this article doesn't lock us into actually borrowing the money, it just allows the select board to do it. And it doesn't lock us into the 600,000 if we find ways. But we're not saying that there are ways to make it lower, we're saying if we find ways.
So when you say you're not saying there are ways, is that your way of saying you don't have any aces up your sleeve or any ideas? Well, we think we actually can do this or that. If you have any ideas, you're not sharing them.
I don't think we're in.
I don't think we have.
We're not in that position. One, most of the hard work and this work is from our grant administrator and from the EVEAC, the advisory committee. So both of those things will either be in grant reports or in those committee meeting minutes. So like there's no hidden anything on this. Right? Like this is all, so we don't have like some secret plan B or something. Like that's just not.
No, but I'm just wondering if there is an option that that at least I'm not aware of. So I don't analyze this stuff on the same granular level that Charlie does, but basically $500,000 is going to buy all the parcels for this project. Is that correct? Okay. Now the next question I have for you is, and maybe you can answer it, but at least like us to think about it. It seems to be that we're in a kind of a bipolar thought in town here, which is that we're going to buy the land, we're going to sell the lots, town's going to be made whole, and everything's going to be lovely. Or the other option is we're going to buy the land and everything's going to go to hell for whatever reason, and the town's going to be stuck with the bill. There doesn't seem to be any thought about anything in between. And it strikes me that the possibilities are more likely to lie in between those two extremes. So a couple of questions. One is, do you have an idea what's most likely to happen? And if we did wind up having to pay off the whole thing, what does that look like? We take out a bond and borrow money and pay it off over the next 30 years. What's that going to do to our tax rate? I mean, everybody's scared of this thing, or well, everybody is, but the folks who are urging us to vote no are scared of it. And I'd just like to know, okay, what's the price tag if this thing goes belly up? You know, the average tax rate per 100,000, do you have any idea what the effect would be? So we have some idea of what to be scared of if we want to be scared. Thank you.
Josh is gonna...
Before Josh answers the question, I want to clarify what the question is. I want to clarify what the question is. When you say, if the whole thing goes to hell, what do you mean the whole thing and on the hook for it? You're talking about the loan?
You have to ask the people that are voting no what they're afraid of. I'm just asking on their behalf, what's happening with this town with what they're afraid of happens.
Okay, I'd like Josh to tell us what the question was, or answer that question.
All right. A 30-year bond, which Stephen suggested, with level annual payments, a $1 million bond let's say at the end of all of the recovery efforts, we're on the hook for $1 million and we decided to, because the VCF loan that we're voting on, it's not like what we're gonna end up at the end point. The end point is everything that we're working on. Realigning Brook Road, putting bridges in, all of the other things that we're talking about. At the end point of the town, we're on the hook for $1 million with no improvement to the grand list from where it is now. And mind you, if we don't do this project, the grand list will shrink. And if we do this project, the grand list will grow. So let's say net, the grand list is level. A 30-year, $1 million bond for the median grand list value, which the home value would be $355,000, and I got this number from Gary Smith, who's one of our listers, and confirmed it with the actual grand list. So it is correct and true. Per day for 30 years, you will pay $0.25, 25 cents every day for 30 years. And in the course of a year, that's about $91 or so. Every 2 weeks, for the median taxpayer, a level annual payment of for a 30-year bond, every 2 weeks is about $3.40. We are talking about not significant amounts of money in everyone's daily cash flow for us to pay $1 million over 30 years. And if your home value is doubled, well, that's 50 cents, a half dollar. Like, used to be John F. Kennedy on that coin. Don't see those around much anymore. If you have 4 times the home value on your grand list value from the median, that's a silver dollar. Or a Sacagawea, or we'll take a Susan B. Anthony if you're like feeling like, cool about it. Like, so when we talk about the actual like individual's payment to this like eventuality of recovery, we are not talking about what it costs to buy a cup of coffee at the Plainfield hardware store. We are talking about something that is less than half of the price of a cup of coffee at the Plainfield hardware store for $1 million. So at the end of all of this, when we have to actually provide our share of all of these projects, it is not going to be significant to everyone's bottom line day to day.
Okay, Dan?
I'm not as good at math as Josh is, but based on his numbers, if we're only talking about 600,000, that would be for the median household income, a year would be $54.75. So that would be potentially what's at risk for folks.
That's worst case scenario.
That's if we had to bond, if we had to do a 30-year bond on the 600,000, we're talking about each resident paying $54.75 a year. So,
and I think
that's the cleanest answer to the question.
Yeah, and I think we have to look at, that's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is we have families that are building homes, bringing kids into the school, and adding to the tax base. That's the best case scenario. So maybe it's somewhere in the middle, I don't know. But I think if we look at extremes, we're always gonna see something we like or don't like. Janice, you stood up, and then I have Andy, and then, okay.
Thank you. So I'll go backwards. First, to this question of fear and money. I know that this is America and money is all anyone really cares about, but this is also Vermont. And it's been asked multiple times, would you give away $10 million? Would you not accept $10 million? And I would say yes, if that $10 million is for something that could be damaging to the town, and I don't mean just financially. From the beginning, this project has been too big. From the beginning, it has not respected what the land can handle environmentally, and I don't think it's good to spend money on something that's bad. Second point about the referendum, about the loan vote and what it is and what it is not. I think it's important to understand that, of course, everyone has an individual feeling about that, but we don't have any other opportunity to have a referendum on what the town wants about this. There is, I think, some board members have suggested that they might float some kind of referendum on what people feel, but there's no legal requirement. Many other board members have said no, they don't want to do that. So this vote is the only chance that Plainfielders have, the whole Plainfield, not just the people who show up at town meeting, to say whether we support this project or not. And I think that's important.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Andy?
I'm Andy Robinson, I live on Lower Road. I want to talk about risk for a minute. When you borrow money, there are two parties taking risk. There is the lender and the borrower. And in most cases, the lenders are taking a bigger risk than the borrower because they may not get paid back. In this case, our lender is Vermont Community Foundation. They're the largest charitable organization in the state of Vermont. They make grants, they also make loans. And we worked with them. They give us some of the loans to move the Plainfield Co-op up to Route 2, work closely with their loan people. And I want to say this in the best sense of the word, they are hard asses. They do not loan money lightly. I know the guy who runs the program, he talks to me about the number of people he turns down for loans because they don't meet the qualifications. And so these are risk management professionals, and they think this is a legitimate, viable project. They look at it and they go, this is a risk worth taking, and their risk is actually greater than ours as a taxpayer. One. Two, we have amazing partners on this project. We have Habitat for Humanity, we have Down Street Housing. They are the two premier affordable housing developers in our region. They have skin in the game. They are risk management professionals too. They're not going to come in on a project like this if they think it's financially viable, if they think it's environmentally destructive, if they think it's not compliant with the law, and they're all in. And in fact, Angie sent a letter to the select board, which maybe we'll read into the record, about how excited they are about this project. So we have risk management professionals who are looking at this project and they're saying, you know, this is a good bet. And so the messages I'm getting, I have neighbors, God bless them, who tell me this is a risky project. And then I have professionals who tell me it's actually a pretty good thing. And I'm sort of old-fashioned, like I listen to experts. If my doctor tells me to do something for my health, I do it. If my accountant tells me to do something for taxes, I do it. And in this case, there are professionals who are telling us this is a viable project. So I think the risk messaging around this is very frustrating to me because we're hearing people are speaking their fear, but then the professionals come in and say, you know what, this is legit. And I think there's a different risk we're not talking about, which is reputational risk. We have invited the Community Foundation and Habitat and Down Street to our table, and they are sitting at the table, and they are the big kids, and we are now at the big kids table. And if we say to the big kids, you know, we changed our mind, we don't want to do this, the odds of them coming back in the future and supporting us in the ways that they can support us also go down. So I don't think we're only putting the $9.7 million at somewhat risk. I think we're putting the town's reputation at risk. We want to be a town that says yes. We want to be a town that does stuff. We want to be a town that's proactive. So, I mean, I'm clearly in favor of this project, and one of the reasons I'm in favor of this project is because there's people who I trust and admire, who are professionals in this field, who are telling us to go for it.
Yep, just a second.
Yeah, so as Andy mentioned, we did, as a select board, receive a letter from Angie Harbin, who's the executive director of Down Street Housing and Community Development. She wrote to us yesterday, dear select board members, Down Street Housing and Community Development is proud to support the East Village expansion project and the town's effort to create new home ownership opportunities for Plainfield residents. This project aligns directly with our mission to strengthen the social and economic fabric of central Vermont communities by developing and stewarding permanently affordable homes. We're especially excited about this location because it embodies the best of what community-centered development can be, a walkable, connected neighborhood that can welcome residents who have struggled to find an affordable home in the region, including those displaced by recent floods. If funding and resources allow, Downstreet would be honored to partner with the town by developing 5 shared equity homes within the new neighborhood. These homes would provide first-time homebuyers with a pathway to stability and wealth building while ensuring the homes remain affordable for generations to come. We're grateful for the town's leadership in advancing this project and look forward to working together to make the vision of a thriving, inclusive Plainfield Village a reality.
Thank you. Jake is up.
Jake McBride again. I just want to address what Andy said about risk, because I think that that's important. First of all, I want to say thank you, because that was a helpful breakdown for me. And thank you to a lot of people tonight who've just been clarifying so many things. I was raised in a military family, and my dad went to West Point and always told me, no risk, no reward. And my mom always told me, he who hesitates is lost. And those stuck with me. And I think that this is a risk. I think any move ever is a risk. When you cross the street, you take a risk. And I think that this is a well-calculated risk. And I want us to think about the risk here, and then also think about the risk if we don't do anything at all. And we've talked about this before, but I just want to bring that back up. The risk if we don't do anything at all. Someone pointed out on Facebook earlier that there's 19 properties for sale in Plainfield. Why isn't anyone biting? I've looked at all of those. Like 4 or 5 of them are in the floodplain. The others are all out of my budget, and the other ones are raw land where I would have to put in all of the systems myself, and I would never be able to afford to do it. So, talking about risk, okay? What if people don't buy these homes? The values continue to plummet. One of them is literally next to houses that are getting bought out by FEMA. I'm not gonna pay $180,000 to have my front yard be Route 2 and the backyard be the river. It's an irresponsible risk. So I'm not gonna take that. So that's the answer to why people aren't buying those properties. I think it really behooves us to look at the risk of doing something and the risk of not doing anything. Thank you.
Thanks. Lauren.
Yes, Lauren Geiger here again. I just wanted to say that I attended the Vermont Development Conference on Thursday, which is a conference of financing people, developers, housing experts all over the state to learn more about what other towns in Vermont are doing. And towns are increasingly taking on the development of housing because of the housing crisis. I heard multiple examples of this in different towns. And in terms of the $600,000, I just wanted to point out that we're talking about 40 units of housing. 15 would be accounted for by Downstreet and Habitat for Humanity. That leaves 25. 13 of those remaining 25 have to be allocated, along with the Downstreet and Habitat ones, to buyers who make 80% or less of area median income, which is about $62,000 in Plainfield for a single person. And then 12 would be sold at fair market value. It's the fair market value lots that we're hoping will pay back the $600,000. And people have talked about the real estate market in Plainfield and things not selling. I agree with Jake. I've looked at some of those properties. Many are on Route 2. They're not as desirable properties, or you'd have to pay considerable money for land to put in infrastructure. I also consulted my own realtor today about the housing market, and she said that buyers are still here and ready to buy, interest rates are favorable, and one of the big changes is that people are, instead of building a 2,500 square foot house, they're looking at a 2,000 square foot house, or making adjustments to make them more affordable. I know that people have voiced a lot of concerns about whether or not these LMI buyers could actually qualify to buy the 13 lots that we're talking about, because Downstreet and Habitat are going to qualify their buyers and they're going to deal with them. There is a requirement in this grant that people take a home buyer's course. in order to buy. So they are going to be trained and educated about what it means to have a mortgage and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that there is considerable demand, and I think that if we're talking about 13 lots where we need to find people who can qualify for loans, even if they're low to moderate income people, 13 is not a lot when we are saying that, the governor is saying we need between 27,000 and 40,000 homes in the next 5 years. I think there are 13 people out there that we can find who can qualify to buy those lots.
Sandy?
Just a couple of quick points for you. You've already mentioned that the true encumbrance wouldn't happen until a lot of other information is gathered. You know what funding is available, and you could make a really educated choice. That really reduces risk right there. And the second point is that the risk is really about what is the residual that might be the gap that Jake pointed out. And if there are 12 lots being sold at fair market value, who knows what that guess is now, but 12 times 50,000 would be 600,000 right there. So even if they didn't sell at that price, or you didn't sell all of them in 5 years, which would boggle my mind, just knowing how many people are looking for land with utilities attached. That seems to me like a relatively small risk. But then there's really the question of if there is a residual, how would the town pay for that? And the increment of new value is tremendous. At one point, I think it was estimated at something like $12 million. That I don't know what the number is now, that by building these 40 homes and having 40 new properties, there will be a new increment added to your green list. That is a tremendous amount of income coming in. So many other towns look at that increment and think carefully about what they could give to developers to encourage them here. You are not even in a situation where you are giving land away. At the conference that Lauren mentioned, St. Albans regularly gives away $1 to $2 million, and in return they get about that much increment back. Montpelier is looking at giving up $3 million right now, and that I would call a risk, because they're having to do that before they even know what the end result would be. So I'm looking at the whole spectrum of risk, and thank you for letting me point out what I see.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yes.
I might also like to address risk. There's the financial risk, there's the ecological risk, there is the preciousness of the land, which no one is disputing. There is a risk of doing nothing, which is namely, we've already lost grand list value, taxes are up. Doing nothing keeps it that way. Yes, the housing committee is coming online soon. May there be properties newly available for people to live in, for those properties to get back on the grand list. Is it going to be dozens of units fast, relatively speaking? No, probably not. Then there's the what if. What if the CDBG-DR grant didn't care about the purchase price of the land not being included? What if our $9.4 million grant application was a $10 million loan application, and the select board would have all of the money we needed to make the smartest decision that we could, given the clamor of Plainfield residents who are aggrieved about their tax burdens? It's a risk to ignore them. It's a risk to do nothing. And for those who are still concerned justly about the ecology of the parcel, please contribute your expertise to make the project smarter. We have the cooperation of the state and state agencies. They're willing to work with us. We haven't even seen the next iteration of the design because we've been talking about this for months. The next iteration of the design is coming. Make it wiser. Help the people, your neighbors, who are struggling to stay in Plainfield because they can't afford to stay in Plainfield. Homeowners who can't afford to stay in Plainfield. You can help them by making this project smarter and by supporting bond vote, which allows us to make fiscally responsible and wise decisions in a relative sense, given what is at stake in this project. Thank you.
Jake.
This is a question for Janice, but for a lot of other, Jake McBride is my name, not Janice. This is a question for Janice and for a lot of other people who have mentioned thinking that this project isn't ecologically sound. And I am also concerned about that. And so I guess I would love to just hear, like, is it because of certain studies that you've seen? Is it hearsay? Is it numbers? Is it visuals? Like, I guess I'm curious, like, what the data points there are. And maybe they're all in, like, grant applications and paperwork that I haven't read because I haven't had the time. But if anyone on the select board or if anyone out here can tell me where to find those things, that would be awesome, because I do want to look over those. And then if anyone has data points, paperwork, etc., that show that this is completely ecologically sound, completely legal, I would love to see those as well, just so I can parse through them all. Thanks.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you, Jake, for asking. George Springston and Rose Paul, who are experts in flood, danger, water, geology, experts, that's their field, they're professionals. I mean, there are all kinds of experts, and experts disagree, we know that, right? There are experts in finance, experts in real estate, experts in ecology who think this is a very bad project. I know there are some who think it's a great project, okay? So George and Rose have been very clear. They have given explicit discussions of the land, which parts of it are dangerous to build on, which parts of it have eroding gullies, which parts are too close to wetlands. They have also looked at the Vermont soil map, which says that even the land that is not on wetlands has very high water table, is not appropriate for basements. We live across the street, our basements all get flooded. John and Jeanette had a total flooded basement in just the regular rainfall, last year, not in a flood. This is a situation that is dangerous. I'm not saying it's absolutely certain that it will happen, but you have your experts. You have your experts that you consult when it comes to Brook Road, and they are the same experts who say 40 units is much too much. And I think Charlie wanted to answer as well.
With all due respect to Rose and George, who I love dearly and respect all their work, like, again, I want to see.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, okay.
You
So I should ask.
Okay, I don't want to get into it.
It is, just say it's on the EVAC website. They have given a long report. There are reports of the grant application, very detailed with maps, all sorts of things. I just want to add one more thing about wetlands. Governor Scott has recently deregulated wetland usage. It is now fine in Vermont to build on wetlands, okay? There are people trying to stop that and overturn that, but it is now fine. Okay, Charlie.
Can I just?
Yeah, jump in,
Sorry.
man. Yeah.
My day job, I'm the executive director of Vermont Conservation Voters and know a lot about the executive order that the governor passed. It does not say that you can just build on wetlands. So the governor, in my opinion, did illegal things with this executive order, overreach, goes against statute, which is what the legislature set up, which you can't do. As a governor, much like President Trump, can't just executive order his way around Congress. But he is trying to lessen the buffers from 50 feet to 25 feet. He is trying to limit how and where we map wetlands. It does not say you can just build on wetlands. Also, the guidance that's coming out and the rule that they're going to be, I think by the end of this week or maybe early next week, going to be putting out for comment is much narrower from all reports from the administration than what the governor put out as a big statement. So I think that we shouldn't use the governor's political attempt to show that he's supportive of housing as another thing to be afraid of. When one, we don't even know if the rules are gonna go into effect, and two, the rules, there are still rules in place for wetlands, including Agency of Natural Resource permitting, that have to happen to be able to build on wetlands.
It's still 50 feet, and that's what the study.
He's trying to change it to 25 feet.
But the study that we have for this project allows for 50 feet?
Yeah, the current project map shows 50 feet buffers, which is current state law.
Yeah. We have a new question? Yeah.
Who's asking the question now?
Your name?
Will Bennington. I'm not an expert. I have a degree in forestry from the University of Vermont. It's like 20 years old and I've never used it, but some expertise there. The first place I ever lived in Plainfield was 82 East Hill Road. So I've lived basically on this land and spent a lot of time on it. That was a long time ago as well. I'm also an organic vegetable farmer and manage about 25 acres of land at the other end of town, and am currently attempting to purchase more land, develop land for housing, and help our employees find housing. It's a constant struggle for them. The biggest struggle our business faces is the fact that young people cannot find places to live here. That's more of a rental market issue for us than, we don't employ a lot of people trying to buy houses yet, but it's something we have brought proposals to the Development Review Board that, God bless them, but it's not easy to do anything creative in terms of development in this town and in this state. The 5-acre parcel minimum is ridiculous, and if you want to talk about ecological risk, that is your ecological risk. Developing in the village core, I understand that it's a special field and there might be sensitive soils. I know George and Rose, they're very smart people. I haven't paid attention to that part of the project, so I don't know, but we need to develop downtown village cores in this state, and we need to stop the illusion that everyone can have their little 5-acre forested cabin. No offense to many people in this room who I'm sure have that. I also live I live in a more rural part of the town, but we are working land. We need to have farms and manage forest lots, but that is the greater ecological risk we are facing, is a Vermont that looks like the New Jersey suburbs that I fled, except it's 5-acre lots instead of 1-acre lots, but it's not good. We do not want that, and this is the only way, or this is the risk in not being creative and not seeking these creative solutions is the real risk I see. And yeah, this could flop and we'll all pay a quarter a day, which I don't want to minimize that. That could be a lot for some people. But it's like, right, we are facing massive ecological catastrophe, social, economic catastrophe. We need to be creative. And I think this is a decent risk to take, and we might lose some wetlands that people care about, some nice meadows that people care about, but like development is harmful no matter where it happens. There is no ecologically benign place to develop. We just need to think like, what, do we want more big forested areas of town, or do we, and a more densely developed downtown, or do we want, like, you can't go find 20 acres of forest to walk around in Plainfield because there's a house everywhere, because that is where we're heading. Take it as a question.
Did you have something you want to say? Yeah, and then I'll get you. And then Charlie, I'll get you.
So I just want to say, not as the town treasurer, but as somebody who's lived in the town for the last 18 years. When I moved here, I rented a house, a 3-bedroom house on 2.5 acres. When you adjust that rental price for inflation, it is less than what I pay to live across the street in the old Plainfield hardware store location, and not the whole Plainfield hardware, just the part that was the grow shop and the homebrew store. Above me lives a family of 5 who pays $1,600 a month. And they are clearly rent burdened. At the amount that I get compensated by the town, I'm not rent burdened. But when we talk about these environmental impacts to the birds, to the wildlife, to the wetland, like, we don't consider the environmental impacts that I experience every day living next to the highway, where I'm sure Times Arcus has done a story about asbestos in the sand that they spread on the highways. That was a popular one about 15 years ago. What is the environmental impact to myself and that family that lives upstairs from me? What is the environmental impact to the people who keep suggesting to me that I should live 10 feet from the US highway and can't access, like, I already am ineligible for this project. My name is Joshua, but I should be named Moses because I will not go to the promised land here. I am not permitted to access this land. So I'm advocating strictly from a place of compassion for my fellow people who do not own land. And when only one person in the East Village expansion holds the status of a renter, and so we're drastically underrepresented, and renters are extremely rent burdened, what will happen if this project goes through is it will create more mobility economically for the people of the town who can move economically into home ownership, and thus alleviate some of the burden and open the market for renters. What are birds? What is the rent burden of a sparrow? Like, do sparrows have to consider first and last month's rent? Like, the environmental impact is shameful compared to the human environment that we are saying to people that they have to live with.
We've got another
Like,
question.
I keep my cats indoors, and my landlord will access my apartment without my knowledge and let my cats out. And raise your hands if you know that's true. And Janice has been to my house and knows what my house layout is.
Josh,
If the cats get out,
Josh,
right there.
we have other questions, Josh. Can we, thank you for your point.
We need to consider the human impact that we are imposing upon people who don't have access to housing right now.
We live on an island.
Steve, did you have another thing?
Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
So I do just want to say, again, from my day job perspective, we do have to care about people. We do have to look at the housing crisis. We do have to look at, you know, we have higher numbers of people who can't afford health insurance in this state than we did 10 years ago. We have higher numbers of people who have to use food banks than we did 10 years ago. But we also have to realize that we want to be Vermont, and that means we have to protect the environment as well, because if people didn't want a beautiful place to live, they wouldn't live in Vermont. So we have to balance those two things. And so we shouldn't, and by the way, I think that this project balances those two things, which I know not everybody thinks so. But as somebody who's done environmental advocacy for a long while now, I do think there's a balance there. I just don't want this to turn into a thing where it's like housing versus the environment, because that is not what this situation is. I think the situation is, how do we balance the two? How do we create the community that we want? And I think that means making sure we're doing the best we can for wetlands and for things, by the way, wetlands are great ways to make sure that we don't have more flooding, but also that we're taking care of people in our community and being an accessible community so that more people can be part of our community, because we should try to grow as a community, because right now we're contracting as a community, both in businesses and in residents because of the flood.
Thank you. Steve, and then Charlie.
Stephen Farnham. Again, I'd like to address what looks like extremes. When you look at the town, it's either this is going to be a great blessing or it's going to be another fiasco, and I suggested earlier, might actually be somewhere in between. And for the land, I think it's the same thing. I'm hearing what I'm perceiving or understanding to be, when I hear names like road Rose and George, I'm hearing what I understand to be concern about wetlands, nature, land, what's appropriate to do with this piece of property, and so on. And it seems, I don't know, but it seems like the perspective is that if we can stop this project, we're going to continue to be able to look across the street at a nice open meadow. Correct me if I'm wrong, and the other extreme is if we don't go forward with this project, then some big bad monster developer is going to come in and he's going to do much, much worse. And again, I think those are two extremes, and I think the reality is probably somewhere in the middle. I have seen a piece of property adjacent to mine divided into, I think it was a nice couple 100-acre farm, divided into something like 8 parcels, and there's already houses being built on 2 or 3 that I'm aware of. And it's not going to be the same neighborhood after all of those parcels are built on. It's just not. And another one went in across the road from me, and it's just ridiculously huge. And that's what happens. And this project, if the town goes forward with it, we the people have some say in what happens, and if the town doesn't go forward with it and someone else buys it, we'll have less to no say. So I guess what I would ask of the folks that are concerned about the environment, the birds, the wetland or whatever, I'd like to invite any of them to come to this microphone and say, okay, what's your alternative? What do you think is going to happen here if this gets stopped?
I'd like to keep us focused on the bond vote primarily, but thank you for your comments.
Charlie first, Michael.
Oh, Charlie, yes, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to focus on the question that we have at hand, which is the cost of this land. And I'm going to make a slight jump because I'm saying, what is the cost of wetlands on this land? I was asked and actually challenged to name what sort of environmental characteristics we should be looking at. We should be looking at runoff pollution, we should look at ag lands, we should look at soils, we should look at wetlands, and especially look at stormwater. I'm not going to address all those. By the way, I'm a professional ecologist. I speak for the environment. I'm not against housing, and I'm not against ecology. In fact, I'm for ecology, but I'm not against nature. What I want to do is just quickly address stormwater. You say you're doing everything that the permits allow. That is a minimum legal. You should do everything that you can for the environment. I talk about stormwater. Stormwater as an example. The health center, in its first expansion in 2011, built a storm retention pond because they had more than 1 acre of impervious surface. That detention pond was built to specifications. During the flood, before Irene, in May, that stormwater pond almost failed and eroded the gully. Actually, it's the gully that was the cause of Act 250 coming into effect. Literally, that was the gully that was polluted, that Martin Johnson, as Commissioner of Water Resources, wanted to clean up the pollution in that gully. They put in a detention pond, and the gully eroded. It is now a chasm. That stormwater pond cost $300,000, put to specifications. After that gully eroded, there was a proposition that actually the town of Plainfield is responsible for maintenance of a secondary detention pond that was put in for $200,000 to stabilize the gully in its detracted state. All I'm saying here is, if you follow the regulations, you might not protect the environment. If you believe the experts, you might not protect the environment, but still listen to those experts. Rose and George have been brought up, but there are many more than Rose and George, including myself. who are very concerned about runoff pollution, about loss of habitat, about wetlands. By the way, you can't enhance wetlands. That's nonsense. That's been proposed for this site, or at least one of the proposals. As these plans progress, all of those proposals are changing. It's a changing target, but you cannot enhance wetlands. And this project proposes building on wetlands, whether they're protected, whether they're class 2, or whether they're not protected. It's proposing to impinge on those wetlands that are valuable and unbuildable. In fact, they're unbuildable nearby because it's a drain. Have you had a soil scientist do the pits, not the drainage, but to see what kinds of soils and what drainage and what the basements are going to look like? You've got to do this.
We did.
You didn't dig a soil pit to see what they.
We did 5.
And what did you find? That there was
online.
Let's,
I read it. It's inadequate.
You just said we didn't do it.
No, I said you didn't do the proper studies. Forget that.
okay,
I'm guilty, let's not argue.
we're getting off on the wrong, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Please, look at what environmental factors are, and listen, George and Rose and others have been screaming for these topics to be considered, and they have been ignored. Right.
Michael, yeah.
Thanks, Michael Burndown. There may be one person in this room who hasn't decided how they're voting. Probably not, though.
That's kind of what I think.
There's maybe 2 people on Zoom right now who don't know how they're voting. Probably not, though. This is an informational meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to ask questions and to get answers. And I think what we're doing is sharing information amongst ourselves as much as doing what the meeting is for.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a few things that were interesting to me tonight. One of them is that if you're opposed to the project, you're fearful, or you're obsessed with risk. And if you're for the project, you are altruistic and want the best for your fellow citizen. And neither of those things is really exactly right. One thing that Stephen said was there's some in-between to consider. One thing Francis Rose said was, well, if you have ways to improve things, come to us, tell us how to improve things. I think we might be able to combine those 2 ideas by simply considering, even at this late date, scaling back the proposed project. Maybe we can accept the project, those of us who are against it. Maybe you can accept a real project that happens without opposition if you scale it back a little. Maybe that will help protect the environment that we're trying to protect. Maybe it'll help minimize neighbors' concerns. Maybe a lot of things could come of a real concerted effort to tailor the project to the needs of the whole community. This is what should have happened a long time ago, not at the last minute like this, but it's still not too late.
Karen? Yep.
Thank you. Karen Hatcher. I want to acknowledge that the timing of this whole project and the grant, way too fast. Absolutely. 6 weeks from the time we heard our pre-application was accepted to having to have a final full application ready when it should have taken 6 months. when we should have had meetings upon meetings in the community to discuss all the elements. We did not have that luxury. We did not. So we find ourselves here, fighting with each other about important things that we should have been able to talk about before. So what I want to offer is this. We're not done. We are at a step in the process that will tell us, is there money? Could we move forward? I think we have opportunities together. We have the EVAC committee that has subcommittees. Lots of opportunities for weighing in on all the elements. We had to take the current design. We had to pull that into the grant application. We had to build around that. Is anybody happy with that? No, even the people who had to pull it together, we're not happy with it. We know it's not ready, it's not fully baked. But I believe we have time together to adjust, to work through, to keep making it better, if we stop fighting with each other and we start working together, because we need housing, there's this money, there's an opportunity in front of us. Let's not walk away from it. Let's figure out how to be smart together. There's so many good brains in this community. And here we are, like, fighting. It's so frustrating. We were forced into this situation by the grant. We were forced into it. Would we walk away from it? No, we could not. So here we are. All we're talking about is authorizing them if and when. Not that they will, but between now and then, we won't even know what we're being awarded until January. Then, there are many months to work out what the conditions of the grant are. In the meantime, the EVAC is meeting regularly. They have committees. I would offer that people get involved in those committees. Get your input, your expertise into the process so that when we get word, we can keep working on this. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It just doesn't. There is middle ground, as Steve was saying. But I think there is a step we need to take so that we can say, yeah, we're in it. We don't know if this is the right thing exactly, but it's close. And maybe together we can figure it out. I do believe we can. I do believe we can. There are smart people here. So that's just my pitch, guys. It's not perfect. It is what it is. We're in the game. I hope we get some money. I hope it's enough money, and I hope we can figure out if we have to adjust, how we adjust, and we make this work for all concerns. Thank you.
My name's Eli Barlow. Well said, Karen. Thank you.
Yeah, we're getting to the end.
What's that?
We're getting to the end of the time, right?
Yes.
Time for a question.
If,
It's not really a question.
it's informational meeting, so if you have a question or something,
Well, I'm Jan Navarino. I don't really have a question per se, but one of the things that I think we haven't mentioned anyway when it comes to the ecological concerns is that moving housing, moving buildings and people out of the floodplain is going to be really good for that river. And it's going to make it more flood resilient, especially downstream. So that's a very good thing. I think it's pretty clear that we can't put housing back in that village. You know, that's where we are. And so it's a good thing for the river and for the town and for the local ecology, for the floodplain ecosystems to come back. I hope that we will allow for that, for forests and, you know, maybe some other kinds of ecosystems along that corridor. Really excited about that possibility. And because we can't build in the village either, we permanently lose the housing that we have lost, or we find another place for that housing. And when you look at floodplains in Vermont, and really around the world, we've lost way more acreage than we have upland forests and meadows. You know, if you sort of are looking at calculus here of ecological value, I think there is value in protecting our floodplains and figuring out how to move people out of them. And this is one way to move people out of the floodplain, which has to happen one way or the other. So that's another ecological consideration to keep in mind, I think.
Yeah, thank you. And we should bear in mind that the buyouts are going to result ultimately in town parks along the river,
Yeah.
which essentially would be floodplains, but wouldn't have structures on them. So that's a benefit to the river and the town, I think.
And flood resilience.
Yeah. Oh, Rita.
Still Rita Schubert, and I really hate public speaking. But, you know, I was listening to Karen, I've listened here, it's a pretty respectful meeting, but underneath there is seething. And I know this because of the social media posts that we've all been reading and what's been going on. There is some underhanded stuff going on, there is some negative stuff going on. If I knew that we could move forward in a much more positive way, I would feel better about this whole thing. I really do not like what has been going on, even though I have been a part of it. And I think most of us in the room have been a part of it. Can we be better than that? I don't know. Can people stop misrepresenting facts? Can they stop writing private emails that are destructive? Let's see if we can move forward more positively. Let's see if the EBEAC committee can involve more conversation. Let's see if the select board can listen better to the community, because otherwise we are screwed. And I mean, I've lived here for 55 years, and I have never seen the passion that we experience now. There are people who hate each other. There are people who don't want to talk to each other ever again. They are lifelong friends who are angry. So I think for us to move forward, the atmosphere has to undergo a major transformation. And you guys are responsible for that, and all of you are responsible for that. So let's see what we can do, because if, as Karen says, we're going to get the damn grant, then we better plan it so that everybody is okay about it, because otherwise it's going to be a disaster.
Jake was standing, and then Steve.
Thank you so much, Lita. Jake McBurney. Thank you so much, Lita, because I kind of prepped a little bit before this to say something similar, which is actually more about the select board than the people, but I agree. There's just been a lot of vitriol and bad behavior, and it doesn't look good on any of us, and it's disappointing and unfortunate. I want us to move forward in a better way. Oh, I keep crushing. Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have this select board here, and I hear you, Rita, saying that they need to listen to the people better, but I also want to name that these are not lifelong trained politicians. You know, these aren't the Clintons, the Bushes, the Trumps, whoever, the Kennedys. You know, these are our neighbors, and they are people who care very passionately about this town. They fumble, they mess up, and I've seen stuff about them on Front Porch Forum and Facebook that are like not just unkind, but calling their character into question. And I want to really implore us all to not do that, and to also be solutions-oriented and not problem-oriented. I feel like this whole process has been really problem-oriented, and I really want us to try to be solutions-oriented and see these folks up here and Patty, whether she's on there or at home, as our teammates. These people care about us. They're not, getting paid ridiculous amounts of money to shut the government down and not do anything. These are our neighbors. So just that reminder.
Stephen Farnham. Well, they may be characters, but there are characters. I just derailed my train of thought. Now let's see for a minute if I can get it back on track. Oh, the communications course that I took in college 40 years ago, I learned an interesting piece of information, which is that when it comes to communication, something like 38% of it is your tone of voice. 55% is nonverbal, 7% the actual words you're speaking. Now, if those numbers don't add up to 100, then I didn't remember them exactly right, but you get the general idea. So I appreciate the sentiment that's been expressed about Farce Book and what's happened on Front Porch Forum. But I would encourage you to think that those really aren't whole messages. And you're only getting 7% of the message. And probably the most negative part of it. I like this kind of a forum, and I congratulate anybody who overcomes their fear of public speaking. You have it, I don't happen to, which will be tied. The rest of you.
Might have the exact opposite.
But, you know, I just feel like this kind of a forum is so much more civilized. And I really thank everybody who's come up here and said their piece, and I thank you all and all the volunteers who put so much work into this.
Peter.
I would just make 2 comments about math. Steve, that added up to 100%. Very good.
Good man.
And Josh, there's a flaw in your calculations because you forgot that this was free coffee Monday at the co-op. So.
Is that it?
That's it. I said 2 comments.
May I? So, if there's anyone who has not yet cast their vote, and you can believe that this project, the design of it, can get smarter and wiser with your contribution to it, I invite you to practice that. And it does mean maybe making it over the hurdle of the election tomorrow.
We wouldn't have recommended this unless we thought it was good for the town. We aren't committing money yet. We're just asking for permission if situation is correct. We feel it's smarter for the town to buy the land and sell the land and make money with it. But it also has to be done properly. And we're still working on that. And we haven't seen all of the numbers yet. We haven't seen all the designs yet. And we're waiting for that. So.
Can I have a final question?
Final question.
Yes. Could you make sure that the townspeople are involved over their ears in this process?
We certainly can. I mean, over their ears. I'm not sure what you mean, but we'll try to get in the agendas that we post for meetings, items that we can talk about. If there's need for special meetings, we can call them. But we need a reason to do that, right?
No, the reason can be your motion to figure out what the town wants.
Josh, final word?
I would like to note there are 2 auditor vacancies in the town
Yeah.
if you have criticisms of the finances.
There are many vacancies.
Many vacancies.
Yeah.
Cemetery commission.
Including my own.
auditors,
Planning commission.
Running in for Carl's select board seat.
That's right. So I'm going to be filling out my term, but we would like to find someone to sit in with this actually a very competent and good group. So there's many other positions. I know the rec committee needs some people.
Does anyone want the full list? I happen to have it here.
I think we're getting ready to.
We're getting ready to update the website that has all those listings on it.
Dan, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 I have a question, sorry. At the next select board meeting, can we get that list of positions that I can?
You can get that list, yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming.
Yes. We gotta clean everything up.